about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back in the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So some of you are planning a summer vacation, and apparently there's a study looking at what is the ideal vacation time to maximize health benefits. For people who live longer, how much vacation are they taking? And now I look at the George Clooney's who get to go to Lake Como and have a home there. I don't know if they get included in this study because I'm sure they do really, really well. But for those of us that don't have time off, or we only get 1 week off a year or 2 weeks off a year or 4 weeks off a year, what is the ideal vacation time? So apparently there is a study that people pay for these studies. Yes, there is a study on how much vacation time for peak mental and physical health. This is being reported by New York Post. And a study, according to the Journal of Applied Psychology, said that the immediate effects of one's mental and physical health happen as a result of taking that, vacation. And a week appears to be ideal. They say vacationers who took a trip once a year for several consecutive years, only once a year, but if they did it for 9 consecutive years, they increased their longevity by 20%. Those same people also reduced their risk of dying from heart-related conditions by 30%. So they're saying if you take a week-long vacation every year for 9 years, you could cut your risk of heart-related death, by 30%. Okay, I mean, that's pretty cool. That's cheaper than a statin if you really look at it that way. But here, they say the one vacation a year, take a statin if you need a statin. They say the one vacation a year formula also reduces high blood pressure, lowers blood sugar levels, maintains cholesterol and triglyceride levels, all things that could lead to serious heart conditions. Now, research was conducted by Brooks Gump, a professor at Public Health University at Syracuse, and he said that vacation people, or people that vacation, will reduce their metabolic syndrome, that contribute to heart disease and stroke and type 2 diabetes by 25%. 1 week off is ideal, but if you don't have time or money for a whole week off, even shorter vacations have health benefits. Why? Because it's a change of scenery. You don't feel as stressed, tired, depressed. Okay, they obviously haven't gone on vacation with my family. Okay, I would love a vacation to be non-stressful. I got to tell you, I love taking trips and I love exploring, but there is no way I'm going to say a vacation is not stressful. Losing the bag, flight delayed. We had an Airbnb, and while we're on the sidewalk with our suitcases in a foreign country, the person says, no reservation, sorry. I go, we paid for it. We went through Orbitz. And thank God I went on my one of my friends' Facebook to see where they stayed in that same country. And then we went to the Sea of Galilee and we found a great rate on a hotel last minute. I mean, 30-minute notice. They took us and we drove to Tiberias to be able to get a hotel room. But I'm sorry, that is not, okay, a walk in the park. That is not a breeze. In fact, we went to Rome. And the apartment I found, or I think it was a house, it was a 3-bedroom with washer dryer. It was fantastic. But we get there and there's a sign on the door, an eviction notice. So we're like, are we allowed to go in? We were still allowed to stay there, but apparently the tenant was evicted. And so you go somewhere and you don't even know if you're. That's why I really prefer hotels, by the way. Because at least you could, tell on satellite imagery if the hotel exists. But some of these Airbnbs, that can be pretty tricky. Yeah, I probably should investigate that a little bit more and warn you guys with some of my previous experiences. But if your vacation, let's say, is not like mine, where you actually get to go somewhere to a beach and you get to sit there and just think of nothing and your phone doesn't go off and you don't hear the bzz, 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 bzz. And you don't have family group texts and group chats that keep dinging you every 5 minutes. and you don't get constipated, and you aren't, screwed over by prices, and it's a vacation could be nice, and the week is important because I like to do a lot of little weekend jaunts. That's enough for me. But the week is nice because you really kind of need to separate and regroup. And I'm a workaholic, so I am less likely to get burnt out than other people. I really am. I could work, and I work on my vacations, but I have to admit my productivity is amazing the more time I take off in between. And so, if you want to feel productive, if you want to feel rested, take the time off. The problem is it's getting really ridiculously expensive to go. So, I want to do my nephew tour where I want to see my nephews this summer. And I'm going to go to Kansas City and Omaha and Des Moines, Iowa. And the hotel I had in Omaha a couple years ago was $150 a night. Now it's $400 a night. $400 a night for the same hotel in Omaha. $400 a night. That's even more expensive than Las Vegas prices. What the hell is going on here? So, there is that stress of getting the trip. But once you can actually get the trip going, you can, it's doable. Now, very interestingly, also part of the study, they looked at baby boomers and Gen X's versus Gen Zs and millennials. They say 55% of Gen Zers felt guilty for taking a day off. And millennials, 58%, will not take a day off without feeling bad about it. Yet baby boomers we're totally fine with taking a day off. Now, that's interesting because people always accuse the millennials and the Gen Zs of being lazy. These individuals feel guilty to take time off, whereas baby boomers like, screw it, I'm out. Do what you want. Now, maybe it's because the baby boomers are less fearful of losing their job. I mean, for me, I was always fearful of losing my job. In fact, when I had my first child, I only took off the 2 weeks I got. I got 2 weeks off a year. So I only took those 2 weeks off because I couldn't really extend my residency. And then when I had my second baby, I only took 3 days off. I was back to work in 3 days. Yeah, so 1-877-DOC-DALI. So take a vacation if you can. 1-877-DOC-DALI. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hotshot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So the attack that happened over the weekend in Vancouver, where 11 people were killed, including a 5-year-old. Apparently, the suspect has been named. He has been charged with murder after ramming his car into at least, I believe, 30-some people at the Lapu Lapu Day Festival at 8 p.m. on Saturday. And the suspect is Kai-Ji Adam Low, 30 years old, has been charged with 8 counts of second-degree murder, according to Vancouver Police Department. More charges are expected. According to The Independent, the city's interim police chief, Steve Rye, said the man arrested over the incident was known to law enforcement and mental health professionals before the incident. They said Mr. Rye said the man in custody had, quote, a significant history of interactions with police and healthcare professionals related to mental health, as police remain confident the incident was not an act of terrorism. They called the incident the darkest day in Vancouver's history. Why wouldn't it be called terrorism if he is now accused of murder? They said they called the incident the darkest day in Vancouver's history, said it would be a watershed moment for operational changes in the city's police department. That watershed moment should have already occurred before. Look at what happened with us, New Orleans, on New Year's Eve night. So I think everybody needs to be vigilant about this. I just don't know how you prevent it. Canadian's Prime Minister Mark Carney said the nation was left shocked, devastated, and heartbroken. They canceled rallies in Calgary, Richmond, British Columbia, because I believe the election is happening today. So we're seeing vigils and people in mourning, and we have a mental illness crisis. Whether people want to blame cars, whether they want to blame knives, whether they want to blame guns, we have a mental health crisis. And we have people out here that are, unstable. Now, if he is charged of murder, then allegedly he is, being accused of there being intent as opposed to manslaughter. And you guys obviously are better at criminal terminology than I am. But, having taken care of people with mental illness, oftentimes the day they see you in the office, they're feeling great. They're acting fine. They're like, no, I'm good. No suicidal ideation, no homicidal ideation. I feel great. Medicine's working. I'm good. How many, people have seen their grandparents dress up and shower when they go to the doctor, so the doctor doesn't think they're not taking care of themselves? And we understand that. We could tell if you're wearing perfume. We're like, why are you wearing perfume? I mean, you're not going out on the town. You're coming to the doctor. What are you trying to hide? And so a really good, clinical clinician could kind of sift through and see if there's something going on. This is why a lot of people don't like going to psychologists, because they could start the session with the psychologist going, I'm good, I'm fine. And the psychologists know exactly how to just burr hole right through that shield. And they'll ask the right questions to see what your response is. And I think, maybe one of the answers is we do stress tests on people, and not the cardiac stress tests are important to do on people at cardiac risk, but I think there are mental health stress tests. The problem is I think the average person could be driven to insanity, or the average person could be driven to violence, because we're animals. I mean, you go after my kids, I see somebody attacking my kids. Oh, now, there is. Don't even try to hold me back. And so we have to, as animals in the animal kingdom and being humans, have to have the ability to protect our kids, to defend ourselves, to survive. But we have some individuals where they just don't use logic, and they go after the wrong people, and they have a lower threshold. And they don't project. I mean, I know not to attack somebody unless I'm being attacked. But somebody with mental health illness will be like, well, they attacked me. Like, what are you talking about? They reached for a pen. They were grabbing a pen or offering you a pen. What are you talking about? So, we have intersections and crowds and parades and holidays and, sadly, bad things can happen in so many areas. And I think maybe what might help these other countries is to look at what Israel does. Now, mind you, the October 7th attack, one of the darkest days in Israel's history in modern times, their guard was down. But Israel has been able to stave off attacks all the time in restaurants, streets. I've gone to Israel and I felt very safe. There's crowds. And yet the way they do security, seems to minimize that. And, maybe these countries need to take some pointers in terms of how to preventing your people from getting, run down, mowed down by a car, should there be certain barricades? Should there be, it's a shame that has to happen. In Las Vegas years ago, there was a car that I think it was an accident, had jumped a curb and hit a bunch of people. And so now they have barriers protecting the sidewalk. They have bridges where people can cross away from traffic. I mean, it costs taxpayers money, but the Strip is a lot more safe. And there's a lot more ways to protect, to be protected, where they have, I think, these concrete little pillars along the sidewalk so that if a car tries to jump a curb, they're going to hit the pillar. They're not going to hit the sidewalk. I mean, those cost money, but that just might be, exactly what they need, whether it's in Bourbon Street, whether it's, Times Square. So, we could sit here and say, well, this is bad. This is horrible. The police need to do something. We have such a mental health crisis, and we have so many people that are struggling and possibly with murderous intent that there's not enough law enforcement. There's not enough protections. But I would rather see the conversation on what we could do to make our city safe, what we could do for New Year's Eve, what we could do for parades. This was just, it was a festival. It was the Lapu Lapu Day Festival. Still a big festival, but it wasn't, it doesn't have as much media attention as New Year's Eve or sports watch parties, but still, it was a target. Another thing also we have are these inadvertent individuals who fall asleep at the wheel or have a stroke or have a seizure. When somebody said the accident happened because they fell asleep at the wheel, did they really fall asleep or did they have a heart attack? Did they have a seizure? Did they have a stroke? Now, falling asleep at the wheel, I've seen. When me and my residents and co-students would get off a 36-hour, 37-hour shift, we would hear stories of how we would be falling asleep at the stoplight. Well, yeah, sleep deprivation does happen, but the average person is not doing a 36-hour shift. In fact, they banned those from hospitals. Medical students and doctors aren't allowed to be working that long. I think the longest now is 24 hours, but they don't allow you to do the 36-hour shifts anymore. And how that works is you go in, you start your shift at 5, 6 a.m., and then rather than going home at 6 at night, like everybody else, you're on that night. So then you're on that night until the next day, 6 p.m., when you finally get to go home. It was ridiculous. And there are some individuals who might fall asleep at the wheel. But the majority of these cases, I really believe, are cardiac events or neurological events. And remember, we don't have the average person going in and getting seen. They're not seeing medical providers. They don't go to the doctor. They use telemedicine. I had a patient this weekend that I believe had throat cancer. They kept calling telemedicine for antibiotics. I go, has anybody examined your throat? Well, I sent a picture and I go, I'm looking at the picture. I can barely see your throat. Has anybody done a tongue depressor and gagged you to look deep to make sure you didn't have a tumor on your tongue or a tumor in the throat? Or have they sent you to ENT? And so, of course, we're not going to be picking up on mental health illness. We're not going to be picking up on heart disease, strokes. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So many of us, when we look at our phones, we don't necessarily look at it straight on. We look down at our phones, whether it's on the toilet, whether it's, And unfortunately, we're starting to develop something called text neck. And this text neck is something I think we all have, where our neck starts to hurt. We feel like we have to stretch it. The problem is I'm not comfortable holding my phone up here. I'm not. I think that bothers my neck. I feel like I'm hyperextending. I'm much more comfortable in this position. Why I'm more comfortable in this position? Because that's what my body is used to. Like right now, I have to adjust my phone for the video. By the way, I really can't stand this shirt. I don't know why I'm wearing this. I don't really like the colors. I guess it's okay. I don't know. It reminds me of my grandpa, though. My grandpa used to wear, Argyle type stuff. Anyway, so we have a study called Text Neck and its association with cardiac autonomic function, smartphone addiction, and psychological status in young adults. So basically, what this is looking at is how the forward flexion position of your neck could be affecting the autonomic function of your cardiovascular system. And it's actually a fascinating study. Finally, a study that's kind of cool. So the reason why they did this was published in, it says Curious, but Curious is the name of the group. I can't see where the article, it is peer reviewed. I don't see the name. I'm looking at the abstract now I'm sure let me see if I could find out. I just want to give credit where credit is due. It's not telling me the source. I'm just looking at Curious right now. Anyway, they say the increasing use of mobile devices has led to a rise in forward head posture or text neck. This contributes to health issues. Additionally, nomophobia, or fear of being without a mobile phone, has emerged as a growing behavioral concern, particularly among young users. And we've talked about that. But they said text neck or forward head posture is associated with increased sympathetic and decreased parasympathetic modulation. Now, that could affect our heart rate variability. They said, according to the study, heart rate variability analyses revealed a significant inverse relationship between the CV angle, or the craniovertebral angle, and the LFHF ratio, indicating heightened sympathetic activity with reduced angle. Parasympathetic indicators also kind of correlated with your angle, suggesting a link between optimal posture and enhanced parasympathetic function. So your sympathetic nervous system is your flight-fright response. So let's say you have to run a mile. Your sympathetic nervous system will come into play, increase your heart rate, increase your cardiac output, dilate your air bronchioles so you get more oxygen and can oxygenate your blood quicker because you're going to have more oxygen demand. Your parasympathetic system kind of works opposite, where that's when your GI and your urinary symptoms will be. So you don't want to necessarily be digesting food or going poo or urinating while you're running a mile or in flight or fright response. So the parasympathetic system kicks in when the sympathetic nervous system calms down. Then your parasympathetic nervous system could do a lot of their duties, and it's much more than just peeing and pooping. But that's how I always kind of look at it, simply. And the interesting part of that is your angling of your neck, and you continually being in that posture, found there to be a effect on that. Now, so they say that the associations between this underscores the importance of ergonomic interventions to correct posture, particularly in populations with high smartphone usage, hence kids. They say ergonomic education, promoting awareness of proper head and neck alignment, encouraging regular breaks during device use may mitigate the adverse autonomic effects associated with it. And they want medical providers to address it. So I'm not saying that if you use your smartphone, you're going to have a heart attack, but it shows that everything we do is related to something else. If we're sitting for prolonged periods of time, if we're eating the wrong foods, if we are positioned in a certain way. And, I go to the airport a lot and everybody's just looking down. They're all at that at least 45 to 50 degree angle of just looking down at their phones. You don't see anybody holding their phone up here. They don't do that. And, I really credit these offices that allow ergonomic ways to do things. My husband will see me working on my laptop. He says, you got to raise your laptop. I go, but I don't want my neck like that. It hurts. I want to be at an angle. Well, right now, my laptop is at a maybe 30 to 40 degree angle down. Why? Because my neck is now getting used to that. And I don't want to walk around like an old woman later where, I look hunched over. And so we do have to work on that. And so maybe what you need to do is you need to take breaks and remind yourself, okay, I'm going to sit up straight. I'm going to stare straight, and I'm going to let my muscles get used to that. Which, by the way, for those of you that don't exercise enough, working on your posture, doing some yoga, doing some stretches, it's so crucial. There's a lot of benefit to that. So when we tell you that every hour for 5 minutes, you should get up from your desk, walk around, you could give your boss a note from your doctor. Like you can tell them the Dr. Daliah show said this. And they'll be like, well, tell her to go. But every hour you should be standing up and walking around for 5 minutes. Well, every 20 minutes to a half hour, you should stop, look up, and look straight ahead and stretch and get your neck muscles and your back muscles aligned and start getting them used to being more ergonomic. You really shouldn't always be hunched over. So it's a fascinating study. Now, this nomophobia, being fearful of not having a phone, society did this to us. Now, I remember the days where nobody could reach me until I got home. Then I got home, and then there would be my answering machine beeping, and there'd be lights, and I'm like, ooh, I hope he called. I hope he's asking me out. It'd be so exciting. But I remember trying to, because I was always working part-time jobs, I remember desperate to get home fast enough so I could get a message to see if the employer called for a job. Now, people can reach you anytime. Well, the problem with that is now there's that expectation. I do a lot with the media. And one time I took a nap. It was a really good media opportunity, but I woke up an hour after they called. They moved on. They moved on. Nobody's going to wait an hour anymore. Nobody has to wait. And so Yeah, look, I like my nap, and I am going to still take naps. They're a loss, but we're expected to pick up. We're expected. I was worried about my mom one day. She didn't answer the phone, and it was over an hour. And my mom is very, very communicative. You think I'm communicative? This is who I get it from. I panicked, drove all the way over there, went to check on her. She was on a Zoom meeting. I'm like, really? And I can't keep doing this. But thank God she was okay. But, we now there's this expectation that you're always there. You're always on. And so for those of us who do have work or certain responsibilities where if we don't pick up in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, something goes wrong, now our phones are getting smarter where they're saying we've silenced our notifications. We're going to sleep. Now, I used to on Facebook say, I'm going to bed. Okay, I don't want my phone buzzing. I have to have my phone next to me because of work, but I'm going to bed. So nobody bug me. Now you don't have to do that. If somebody alerts you, your phone knows how to shut it off or how to do not disturb and things like that. But that's really, really important. It just, society has made it such that, they assume you have a phone. I just got the iPhone 16. So my husband for my birthday and Mother's Day got me the new phone. It's very, very cool, but flippin' expensive. I mean, we're expected to have a smartphone, and these smartphones are ridiculously expensive. So if people are getting more fearful of not having, their phone, it's because society puts these demands on us. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. Totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So one of my listeners writes how difficult it is for them to get an antibiotic and how these doctors are acting more like robots. So no wonder AI is going to take over their jobs. And what he described isn't wrong with what's happening. So the old days of you going into a medical provider and them knowing you, knowing your family, remembering your father, mother, asking you about your truck and how it's handling. Now, saying, look, now something's different about you. Those days are gone. And that's how I was trained as, with family medicine. I was trained under Dr. Donald Wicker, who was one of those old, small town farm docs. And they deliver babies. I think he even performed a thyroidectomy on a horse. I mean, he could do anything. And, that's how I was trained. I couldn't do a thyroidectomy on a horse, but where, I could see a family member and know if something was off. And I did. There was a son that came in, an adult son of a couple I took care of for a long time. And when he said that he was Frank's son and he was just there for an antibiotic, he wanted a Z-Pack for bronchitis, I go, something's not right. You look gray to me. And he actually was going into diabetic ketoacidosis. And the only reason why I knew to look beyond that is because I knew his parents and instinct told me something was up. And so nowadays it's different. And doctors have a lot of guidelines, and we always have had guidelines. You want to provide proper care. You don't want to go to somebody who lies to you or withholds something from you. Or let's say you walk in with a MAGA hat and they decide to purposely mess with you, like some doctors said and some medical students said they would, online. There has to be guidelines where that stuff doesn't happen to protect patients. But many of these guidelines are now including antibiotic stewardship and preventing antibiotic resistance. And one of the biggest crackdowns on what doctors are doing is writing antibiotics for things that are viral. And this is very tricky for a lot of us Gen Xers or baby boomers who, when we had a sinus infection, that antibiotic would knock it out. Well, because most sinus infections are viral, now the standard of care is if there's no pus, no fever, it's not, a one-sided, obvious facial pain, and it's coming with other symptoms looking like a virus, to not give the antibiotics. But for any of us who have ever had a sinus infection, we can't wait 7 to 10 days. When I'm having a sinus infection, I need relief that hour. But people are getting very frustrated. So instead, the doctors are giving them steroids to calm down the pressure, or they're giving them nasal sprays, or they're having them test for COVID, and if they're positive for COVID, treating for COVID. So there are other things that could be done. But what my listener and what I've seen many patients frustrated on is they get a doctor they've never met, and they almost get this robotic response. Sorry, it's probably viral. So bronchitis, for years, even in medical school, they said stop treating bronchitis with a Z-Pack and antibiotics. 97% of bronchitis are viral. Lobar pneumonia could be viral or bacterial, but most bronchitis are viral. Well, in the 90s, we treated bronchitis with Z-Packs all the time until finally the guidelines said to stop that. So now people who are kind of newer to telemedicine, or now they don't have their regular doctor anymore who always did things that way, they're getting a brand new doctor who said, nope, can't do it. And you're like, well, where is the creativity? Where's the instinct? Where's the look? It's going to, if I don't address it, then it's going to get worse. And I'm one of those people where, I did better with an antibiotic. And I'm a physician. I understand you don't treat viruses with antibiotics. But I notice that if I don't, it gets worse, and I can't go on day 5, day 6, day 7. Yet, because most people don't have their doctor and they're getting somebody random now, they feel like they're suffering. Now, I had somebody call in with a sore throat for 19 days. The problem with that is there's very few viruses or bacteria that lasts 19 days. Usually with strep throat, it's obvious. Most viruses are gone by about 10 days. COVID is notorious for lasting longer. Mono is notorious for lasting longer. But maybe that sore throat isn't pathogenic. Maybe it's from acid reflux. Maybe there's a growth. They vape. Now they have inflammation down there. Or maybe they have cancer. So, where the more you get automated medicine or robotic medicine, then the more of a robotic answer you're going to get. Now, we're also hearing from people where their loved one is in pain, they're struggling, and they go to the urgent care and they say, all right, Tylenol or Motrin. Or they go to the ER, Tylenol or Motrin. I've had patients who broke their arm or broke their leg or broke their foot and they got Tylenol or Motrin. And patients are calling up telemedicine saying, I can't, it's not managing the pain. I need a pain pill. Well, with all the opioid deaths, now guidelines are really limiting the way doctors can do pain medication. And I predicted this years ago, which is why I voted to legalize marijuana. Not that I really thought marijuana was going to be the panacea for pain control, but I knew that people would not get access to pain medications once more and more rules came into play. It used to be a doctor could use their best judgment, but we had some idiot doctors out there that took advantage, that ran pill mills. They were few and far between, but now it ruined it for every other medical provider, and it ruined it for the patients. So here you are going, but I need to get a pain medication, or I need to get an antibiotic, or I need to get something, and I just can't get it. And sadly, people are turning to, the underground market. So what is the answer? Well, the answer is to get a medical provider who knows you. Get a medical provider who cares. Get a medical provider who can understand, what your needs are and how some people, might need an antibiotic. Some people might not. Work with you on your symptoms, educate you, but also listen. Problem is you when Obama said you could keep your doctor, didn't happen. Most patients lost their doctor. The only reason why I still have my gynecologist is because I keep switching my insurance every year. I don't get an insurance unless I know that doctor is on it. Otherwise, I would have lost my doctor too. But that's kind of difficult and expensive to keep changing your insurance around. But that's the only way I could keep my doctor. So, if you don't like the way medicine is going, I don't blame you. You're not the first person to complain. But because we have, just like pink eye and the antibiotic eye drops, for years, doctors have been teaching us, students and other doctors, stop giving antibiotic eye drops for pink eye. But I got to tell you, it seems to knock out the symptoms quick. It just, unfortunately, we're treating a virus with an antibiotic, and then you can get drug resistance. And we have a lot of drug resistance now. And drug resistance is going to be a major issue. So then we need to find other ways to calm down the symptoms. The problem is what's happening is people are going to steroids and more steroids. Well, you could start becoming resistant to steroids. You could start becoming dependent on steroids. So we're going to have to come up with a better system. 1-877-Daliah, don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.